So since Henry Bradbury, founder of the firm, first became interested in the printing of banknotes, and it was he who invented the colour underprinting process, which is still in worldwide use. By 1920, larger premises were required, and this factory was specially designed and built at New Malden for the production of banknotes. The task of the currency note printer is to produce a note which will be as artistic in design as possible, whilst incorporating all the known features to combat the forger. In this department, the design of a banknote first takes shape according to the wishes of the country concerned. Each design, exquisite in its detail, is first submitted for the approval of the appropriate authority before work commences on the engravings. The engraving of a banknote die is done on mild steel. For extra security, the engraving is never the work of a single craftsman, for each is a specialist in his own particular sphere. Like this engraver, working on the portrait which appears on the front of the note. If you take a closer look at this beautifully engraved portrait, you'll perhaps realize why it takes several months to produce. One of the first things the engraver has to learn is to make his design the reverse of the original, because all dies have to be the mirror reverse of the final product. Another engraver is responsible for the work on the back of the note, and this will give you some idea of the intricate engraving involved. A third engraver is responsible for engraving the text matter. And yet another for the ornamental work, which is done on this geometric lathe. The most characteristic feature of this ornamental work is the continuous white line that runs through it as a safeguard against forgery. This machine is capable of producing an infinite variety of geometric white line work by alteration to its mechanical setting. Here you see a white-lined steel original being engraved by a rapidly rotating drill, which is cutting out a continuous pattern on a table slowly revolving on a predetermined track. The work of each engraver is incorporated onto a master die, from which proofs are taken and submitted for approval. Bradbury Wilkinson also produced stamps, which require the same care and skill in engraving as banknotes. The next stage is to transfer the master die onto the printing plate. A soft steel cylinder is rolled over the hardened master die in the transfer press, and an exact copy of the original engraving, but in relief, is taken up by the cylinder. The steel of this transfer roll is next chemically hardened and used to transfer as many impressions onto the soft steel printing plate as is proposed to print notes to the sheet. The plate is now removed and carefully inspected to make sure that the depth of each impression is exactly the same and that there are no imperfections. After the plate has been curved to fit the printing press, it's rubbed down before it's hardened and coated with chromium to make the printing surface more durable. Banknotes are printed on special paper bearing a watermark, which is incorporated during its manufacture. A strict check is kept on every sheet as it's issued to the press rooms. All the preparatory work having been done, the first of several complex printing operations is ready to begin. 2 underprintings are first made on these lithographic machines, one immediately after the other, the greatest care being taken to see that the second printing falls exactly in register with the first. This produces an artistic pattern of coloured diamonds through which run narrow white lines. This type of underprinting is called a duplex ground and is the most recognizable feature of all notes printed by Bradbury Wilkinson Co. These same underprintings are sometimes done on letterpress machines. All the underprintings are now returned to the control department, where they're checked, and every piece of paper originally issued must be accounted for. The initial counting is done by hand, but many other counts that take place throughout production are done by machine. Here, the suction blade of the counting machine is turning over the corner of each sheet, and the number of sheets is at the same time automatically recorded. The paper is now ready for the main printing in the steel plate printing department. These presses carry the engraved steel plates which you previously saw being made. The rotary presses exert such great pressure that the paper is actually forced into the recesses of the engraved plates, thus making the resulting print stand out in relief, which can be felt with the finger. This effect of relief is a most important protection against forgery. Similar printings are also given to the backs of the notes. Incidentally, this machine is printing banknotes for Nigeria. In this examination room, each note on every sheet is checked to make doubly certain that the printing is perfect in every detail. Any which do not come up to the exacting standards required are marked and later discarded. There now only remain the final printing stages, which consist of numbering, dating and printing in the facsimile signature appearing on the front of the note. The speed and accuracy with which girls on these machines give a first check to the number of each note are quite remarkable. With this operation completed, the sheets are again counted on an automatic machine. As all the printing has been finished, the sheets of notes now move to the guillotine department. Here you see the sheets being cut into single notes. The guillotines are fitted with gauges which enable the operator to ensure that the sheets are cut to the exact measurements required. Every care is taken to see that each note is exactly the same size. The single notes, now in bundles of 500, are taken to another examination department where each note is again counted and examined for faults in printing and numbering. Any which do not come up to standard are replaced by a chit so that a new note bearing the same serial number may be printed and inserted in the correct sequence. The notes are given a final count on this machine, which also inserts a slip of paper between every 100 notes to facilitate the banding operation, which is done automatically on this machine. The first and last number of each bundle is checked before being wrapped and sealed into packages of 1,000. This brings us to the packing department. Special wooden cases have been made with tongued and grooved boarding secured inside with corrugated steel fasteners as extra protection. A zinc lining is placed inside. The lined case is now filled with notes, 50,000 to each case. Next, a zinc sheet is soldered on to make the hole watertight. Finally, the wooden lid is fastened into position and the case is sealed with wire bands ready for dispatch. The cases remain in the strong room until ready for shipment. Then specially constructed vans deliver the cases straight to the bullion room of the ship. Incidentally, the whole premises are subject to the most stringent security control, and the factory may be regarded as one vast strong room. It's also worth mentioning that Bradbury Wilkinson is the only firm in the United Kingdom whose business lies solely in security printing. Amongst the special arrangements adopted is the grinding and mixing of printing inks to secret formulae. Apart from protecting clients against forgery, this also means that reprints ordered at a later date will be printed in exactly the same colours. Besides this, research laboratories are maintained for testing paper, developing new inks, and all other materials connected with banknotes. To keep in the forefront of technical advances, an engineering research department is responsible for the design and development of the steel plate printing machines you've seen. Many visitors remark on the friendly atmosphere in the factory, and this is maintained by our welfare and sports organisations. The traditions of the firm are fostered by recruiting many of the new apprentices from families of older employees. For example, a steel plate printer who has been with the company since 1922 was taught his job by his father, and he started with the firm in 1889. This family's association with the company dates back in fact to 1876. And there are many instances in all departments of sons and daughters carrying on the family tradition in security printing, to say nothing of that fine old English game, cricket. To return to more serious matters. So far, you've only seen how banknotes are printed, but as was said earlier, this is only part of the story. For in much the same way as banknotes, the company also prints travellers' cheques. And postage stamps for many countries, including the Dominions. Here you see a run of New Zealand stamps coming off the perforating machine. In addition, Bradbury Wilkinson print cheques for many British and overseas banks. These are printed with what is called fugitive ink, so that should anyone try to make an alteration to a drawn cheque, the printing will disappear and smudge the cheque. For the sake of convenience, many cheques are bound up into books of 24, but there are, of course, variations of numbers and sizes. Finally, the cheques are cut into single books ready for your pocket. Then there are share certificates and dividend warrants, printed for a great many firms. In this section, share certificates are receiving a final inspection. The company's policy has always been that no matter how large or varied an order, it presents no great problems to Bradbury Wilkinson, but great pride is taken in fulfilling clients' most exacting requirements. Pride of craftsmanship and a fine record of security control have gained the confidence of clients throughout the world. It's this same pride which makes Bradbury Wilkinson pleased to have welcomed you to their factory at New Malden.